We continue now at the top of Daf Ayin Ham and Beis Mesechet Kesubos. This is Kesubos Daf 75b. The Mishnah here continues. Aval b'mumin shabegoli. The Chachamim say, let's say she has a blemish, but it's in the open, everyone can see it. Eino yachol liton. So then the husband can't make a claim because again it was a visible mum, and therefore it is clear that when he married her, when he had the kiddushin, he had already accepted it. And the Mishnah continues. Vim yesh merchatz ba'osoyer. Now, if there's a bathhouse in that city, so af mumin shebeseiser eino yachol liton. Even when it comes to blemishes that are hidden, he doesn't have any claims. Mipnei shehu bodka bekrovosa, because he can simply check her out using his relatives. They have seen her, and therefore he would have been aware of these mumin. Rashi over here says ein yachol liton. He's not allowed to make a claim. The yoda v'nispayis, because he knew and he accepted it, and therefore he cannot later make a claim. And the Gemara says, Taima demaisi ha'avraya. The only reason is because the father brings a proof. Halo maisi ha'avraya. But let's say the father does not bring a proof. The father is trying to claim that she should be entitled to her ksuba, and he needs to bring evidence that this mum, that it appeared after they already had the kiddushin. But if he doesn't bring a proof, so then it appears that habal mehem, and it seems to be that the husband is the one who is trusted. Rashi over here says, habal mehem, and the husband is believed. Diyamar hoel v'safiku im hitaso v'im lav, because we say, since it is a doubt whether or not he was misled, hamid maman al cheskaso, so the husband is the one that has the chazaka, meaning to say he has the possession of the money. She's trying to get the ksuba money, so if there's no evidence against the husband, so then the husband does not need to pay. And the Gemara continues, money, so if that's the case, who is the author of our Mishnah? Rabbi Yoshua. It seems to be that our Mishnah follows Rabbi Yoshua. Diyamar, because Rabbi Yoshua says, Lo mi pia anu chayin, we don't live by her mouth. She's not the one that's going to be trusted, so to speak, and therefore, again, the husband doesn't have to pay the ksuba unless there's evidence brought against him. Rashi over here says, Money Rabbi Yoshua, Damar Parakama, he omeres misher astani nanasti. It's in the first parak where she says that I was raped after the erisin. V'hu omer ad shelo erestich, and he says, no, it happened beforehand, and therefore you really should have told me that this had happened to you. So lo mi pi anu chayin, we don't necessarily have to believe her. Shetehei na'menes, we don't necessarily believe her that it happened after the erisin. Elahamid maman al cheskaso, rather we take the money and we say that the chazaka is with the husband. V'lo azlinon basar chazaka degufa lomar hoel v'safek biyadeinu al shas erisin mahi. We don't say, well, since we don't know at the time of the erisin whether she was a basula or not, hamed haguf al cheskaso shel kodem lachein, we should assume she's a basula because that's how she was born. V'arein nol the basula, she was born a basula. V'achanami lormin on hamed haguf al cheskaso uv'lo mumin nol, that we don't say take the body and say there's a chazaka, she was born without these mumin. We don't say that. Rather, we say again that the husband is in possession of the money. He has the chazaka on the money, and therefore evidence needs to be brought against him in order for him to have to pay the ksuba. That's what it seems from the reisha of the Mishnah. But the Gemara continues, now let's look at the end case of the Mishnah. The next case, let's say they already got married, now she's in the rishus of the husband, so now all of a sudden, it's the husband that needs to bring the evidence, and again, time of the maisi habal rayat, it seems like only when the husband brings evidence, only then he does not have to pay the ksuba. Hello maisi habal rayat, but if the husband does not bring the evidence, so then ha'av mehem, and then it seems that the father is the one that is believed, and so therefore, that seems to contradict Asan Rebbe Gamliel. That seems to follow Rebbe Gamliel's position. Diomar Namenes, that says in that case before Mishay Rastani Nanasti, she's claiming it happened after the Erisin. That Rebbe Gamliel says she is the one that's believed. So we have a contradiction within this very Mishnah. Do we believe the husband? Is the husband believed unless there is evidence against him, or no? The other way around. The husband has to bring the evidence that he doesn't owe the ksuba money. And to that the Gemara says, Amar Rebbe Lazar. Rebbe Lazar says, Tavra, it's broken. It's a contradiction between the beginning and the end. Misha Shanazu, Lo Shanazu, you have to say the author of this part is not the same as the author of that one, meaning the beginning of the Mishnah follows Rabbi Yoshua, and the Seif of the Mishnah, that follows Rabbi Gamliel. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rava says, Lo Teima Rabbi Yoshua, Lo Azil Basar Chazaka Dugufa Klal. Do not say that what Rabbi Yoshua means to say is that we never follow the Chazaka of the person's body. Elakilo Azil Rabbi Yoshua Basar Chazaka Dugufa. Rather, what Rabbi Yoshua was saying was as follows. When do we not follow the chazak of the body? That's if there's a chazak of mammon that is against that. If you have a situation where you're trying to collect the money, let's say from the husband, so in that case the husband does not have to pay unless there is evidence against them. We don't follow the chazaka of her body in such a situation. But chazaka de mamona, but if you're talking about a situation of Isser, where there is no cheskas mamon in the particular case, Azor Rabbi Yeshua basar chazaka de guf. In that case, Rabbi Yeshua actually would follow the presumption of the body, the chazaka of the body, and we see this by tzaras, by leprosy. Titania, as we learned in a brayso, in baheres, kodem l'seir, if the baheres, that's the type of tzaras, if that comes before, l'seir love, and if that comes before the white hair, so then tameh, the halacha is that the tzaras is tameh. Im seir love and kodem l'baheres, if the white hair comes before the baheres, tar, then the halacha is that it is pure. And safek, if there's a doubt what came first, so tameh, then we say that it is impure. For Rabbi Yoshua omer keya, but Rabbi Yoshua says no, keya means to say that it's like a dull tzaras, and what does that mean? My keya, what does it mean it is dull? Amar Rabba says keya tar, what keya means is that it is pure, meaning to say that we say that the person is pure, we go by the presumption, the chazaka, the gufa, as Rashi over here says, Alma, you see from here, Hamed haguf al cheskaso, you assume, you presume that the guf is its original chazaka, below tatamenu misafik, and we don't assume that it is tameh due to this doubt. And the Gemara continues with another answer to the contradiction within the Mishnah. Rava Amar Rava says, Reisha kan nimtzu v'kan hayu, Seifa nami kan nimtzu v'kan hayu. When it comes to the Reisha, in that situation where they had not yet gotten married and she was in the Rishus of the father, so we say kan nimtzu, here in the house of the father is where the blemish was found, and here is where they developed, meaning to say the blemish developed earlier, and therefore she's not entitled to the ksuba. But in the Seifa also, where did we find it? Where did we discover it? After she was married, meaning to say when she was in the rishus of the husband, and therefore we assume that also at that time, already after the marriage, that's when the blemish is developed, and therefore the husband does have to pay the ksuba. We say essentially that it was his bad luck. And the Gemara continues, Eisvei Abaya, so Abaya asks the following question on Rava's answer from the Mishnah. The Mishnah said, Nichnas al rishus habal, if she's already in the rishus habal, meaning she's already married, habal tzarech lavi raya she'ad shelo tesares hayu ba mumenelu. So the husband has to bring a proof that before the betrothal, before the erusin, she already had this mumen, this blemish rather, and that his purchase was a mistaken purchase. So therefore it seems to be that he has to prove that she had the blemish before the erusin. So ad shelo tesaris in mishit tesaris lo, he has to prove that the blemish was there before the erusin, not after the erusin, not in that time when she was an arusa but not yet married. But according to what Rava said, v'yamai, but why is that the case? Lema kan nimtzu v'kan hayu, it should be enough for him to prove that during the time of erusin, when she was in her father's rishus, she had the blemish, and then we should apply the chazaka kan nimtzu v'kan hayu. They were found during the time she was with her father, and therefore that's where they developed, and that should be enough to prove that even before the erusin, she had these blemishes, and she's not entitled to the ksuba. And the Gemara answers Amar Le, so he said back to him, Mishanisarsa, no, in a situation when she was already betrothed, Mishum de'ikol amemer, because over there already we can say, Chazaka ein adam shosa bekos elim kein bodko. There's a chazaka, a person doesn't drink from a cup until he checks it, until he inspects it. So in this person he saw what was there, and apparently he was appeased, and therefore if it is Misha Nisarsa, that is not going to be good enough. But the Gemara continues, if so, Ad Shelo Tesaris Nami, the same should be true. Let's say he establishes that she had the mum before the erusin. We should say, Chazaka in Adam Shosa Bekos Elim Kein Bodko, he must have known about it, he inspected, and he must have known about it, was okay with him. So therefore, even if we find out she had the mum before the erusin, he should have to pay the ksuba. And so the Gemara answers, Ella rather, Amrinon, it must be that we say, Chazaka in Adam Mefayis B'mum, when we have a Chazaka the other way, a person never is appeased when it comes to blemishes, and therefore if he establishes she had the mum before the time of the erusin, that's something he really does not accept, and therefore he doesn't have to pay the ksuba. But the Gemara says, Hachanami, but here also, even in a situation, let's say after the time of the erusin, we should say, Chazaka in Adam Mefayis B'mumin. We should say there's a Chazaka, that a person is not appeased when it comes to a mum. And again, we're back to the same question, whether he establishes she had the mum before the erusin, or whether it is during the erusin. In all of those situations, we should say there is a chazaka that where it was found, that's where it happened, and therefore in all of those situations, we should assume it happened earlier, and he does not have to pay the ksuba. And so the Gemara finally answers, Ella rather, Mishanisarsa, when you have a situation where he proves she had the mum from the time of erusin, Mishum Dika Tarti, there are two things in her favor. Number one, Chazaka Hamid Haguf al Cheskaso. Number one, we have a chazaka, we take the body and we say we go with the original presumption. She was born without the mumen. She didn't have the mumen earlier. The mumen came later on, and therefore that is a chazaka in her favor. And further, v'chazaka in adam shosa b'kosa lemkein botko. Further, a person doesn't drink from a cup. There's a chazaka. He doesn't drink from a cup without inspecting it, and therefore we can assume that he accepted it because maybe he knew about it. V'hayrav and ifayas, so he saw it and he was appeased already. So my amrit. So what are you going to say? There's one chazaka the other way. Chazaka in adam ifayas b'mumen have it, that there's a chazaka that a person never is appeased when it comes to a blemish. So again, that's not the same strength. It's not as much as many chazakas as there are on the other side, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Ayin Vav Amud Aleph.